Whoa, it takes somebody special to do what they do. And there's somebody special in Jade Kindar-Martin, who in April of 1997 walked on a 1-inch wire 4 stories above Main Street in Burlington. The unprecedented walk from the Nectar's building on a chilly spring night drew quite a crowd. Since then, Jade has made the Guinness Book of World Records and continues to perform around the world as one of its foremost high-wire artists. During a recent visit home to Vermont and a quick peek atop Nectar's, Fran Stoddard brought Jade back down to earth for a safe interview in the Vermont Public Television studios.
You were a 14-year-old kid from Montpelier when you went to Circus 10 years ago. And there, Stuart Lippy recognized your considerable talent on the high wire. Did you always think you'd run away with the circus?
No, not at all. It was more like just something to do in the summer. And that first year I just discovered it. I just discovered wire. And after that first year, it was all done. I knew where I was going.
How did you get involved with the circus to begin with? Why did you think that was something you'd be interested in?
It was my mother. My mother told me to go. She wanted to get me out of trouble for the summer, and she just said, you know, go do something constructive.
Okay.
So she sent me to the tryouts in Montpelier.
And that was it?
That was it.
You graduated from Champlain Valley Union High School here, and you went to Montreal to circus school. Mm-hmm. You were there for about a year, but then you moved to France. What was that all about?
I went to Montreal to be a wire walker. I didn't know if there was, I didn't know there was such a distinction at the time between wire and high wire. But when I got there, I found myself in a situation where I was working very low, in very short distances, and doing lots of dance and jumps and other stuff that is also very interesting, but it was not at all what I wanted to do. And at the end of that first year, I proposed to the director of the circus school if he could send me to learn from this this high wire master, an 8th generation high wire walker in France, and that's basically how it started.
And it did, and you went, and...
Yeah, I think Montreal just wanted to get me off their hands. You know, I was kind of, every week I'd come with a new plan of how I could set up a wire between, you know, this stairwell and that place, or, you know, over this place, or, so they were pretty happy to get me off their hands.
So it's really the high wire that you went after, and just last year you broke the Guinness Book of World Records by crossing the Thames with your performing partner, Didier Pasquet. Tens of thousands of spectators watched, and you stopped traffic and all of this stuff for this walk. What are the problems? What's the difference between having 2 people do an amazing walk like that and 1?
Well, with one, the wire tends to move with your rhythm, because every time you walk, the wire is not hard straight. It's not like walking on a piece of on a bar of metal. It breathes, it moves, it sways from one side to the other. Not very much, you know, maybe about a foot squared, you know, like this. And when you're with 2 people, what will happen is that it'll start to oscillate, and your rhythm and his rhythm will start to hit in the center and send reverberations back and forth, which could possibly make the wire move in a direction that you're not anticipating at that moment.
Wow. So you started from opposite ends of the river.
Yep.
You joined at the middle, and then...
Yeah. I don't know if it was really in the middle, but
well,
we got to the center and we were like, great to see you.
What was that moment like?
Well, it was pretty amazing. We had trouble. We were first going to have earphone and a microphone to talk back and forth. But they didn't work at the last moment. They both didn't work, and we were both trying to speak to each other from different sides. And finally somebody said, he's already gone, and I threw the mic down. I said, all right, I'm going. And so actually we did meet pretty much in the middle, though, yeah.
Then you had to step over him. Was that the most dangerous part of this walk?
I'd really love to say that it was, but I think the whole walk was dangerous, or the whole walk was an equally dangerous thing from the beginning to the end. there's always times in a walk where you miss a foot a little bit or the wire just doesn't hit right. And I think those are the times the most dangerous, because actually when you're walking, just walking, you tend to kind of space out, or I do at least. I get carried away with the view and being in that atmosphere. So sometimes I'll kind of space out, and it's nothing dangerous, but just it's I mean, my feet, the way that I walk, I always know where the wire is because I follow one foot right after the other. But I don't just kind of put my feet like this.
Right. Now, earlier this month, you made a clandestine walk between the towers of Saint-Sulpice in Paris, France, these tall towers that overlook the whole city. You came up with this idea, I guess just had to do it. How do you set up, how do you figure out how to set the wires and sneak up this church, and how did this happen?
Well, it basically was just, it was a dream. About 5 years ago, I saw this church from Notre Dame. I was with my mother in Paris, and I saw this church, and I said to her, that church there, that's when I'm going to walk across. And she was like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, that's nice, that's a nice idea. And this summer, I had decided to leave France. I decided to move out of France and back to the United States. So I thought I wanted to give something back to the people of France, to my colleagues and friends who are all artists, and also for me to prove to myself that after 5 years in France that I was capable of setting up and maneuvering everything that I needed to set up a high wire show. And that's basically what I did. And I started at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I went till 8 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, as the sun was rising out on Paris, I was sitting on my wire between two towers, 200 feet in the air.
Wow. Now, on any of these walks, the fall would kill you, and you don't use safety wires, and you don't use nets. How do you know what your limit is? How do you know when the conditions aren't right and maybe you shouldn't do this?
You have to just listen to yourself, listen to yourself, listen to your heart, listen to your head. And sometimes not listen to your heart and listen to your head, because sometimes you want to go farther, you want to push the limit farther. And I'm not a person for suicide. I don't want to kill myself.
Why do you do this?
Just for the pure enjoyment of it. I'm not I'm not for the adrenaline rush. It's just being in a place in la vide, in the void, in a place that is just empty of everything, and you fill it with yourself, and you fill it with things that you believe in, and it's a beautiful spot to be in, and it makes me happy.
What's next?
What's next? I don't know yet. Quechee Gorge, maybe? I don't know. Something.
Between Balloons?
Well, Between Balloons has been done. I'm not really into making a lot of breaking records or making records. That was never, it is not my goal. Mm-hmm. My goal is to just have a really nice time and walk on the wire for a long time and do what I love to do. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
For all of us at Points North, I'm Rob Mahalik,